Hey, it's Biddy Penny. Welcome back to my channel. This is part 2 where we will be decorating all these pieces that I made in part 1 of the video of 13 different junk journal ideas. So I'm grabbing some napkins. You guys should probably grab a drink or a snack or something like that because this is the longest video. Besides my lives, I just don't do long videos typically, so I think for junk journalers, this is like totally normal. For my card makers, your eyes are probably going to glaze over when you see 40-minute video. But here we go. So I am taking apart the napkin. There's usually 2-ply or 3-ply and 2 that you take off, and it just leaves the patterned top. And I am going to Mod Podge this onto this page. So this is I'm trying to remember what I called it in the first video, but it's just the hinged page, which is actually what I think I called it. It just has a simple 1/2-inch hinge on that right side there, and I am actually going to use this napkin and cover the front and the back of this page. I even cover part of the hinge. This is a cocktail napkin size, in case you're wondering. So it's not the super large like dinner napkin. It is the cocktail size. I used to sell these in my Etsy shop, and it just got to where the shipping was so expensive that it just was cost prohibitive. I was losing money by selling them in my shop, so I stopped. And now I have a buku of them. So I am going to be making a whole bunch of these pages. So I'm just folding that over and now doing the back side. These pages are really gorgeous, and I love the way they fill. I am not going to put Mod Podge on top of this. I'm just gluing it down with the Mod Podge, and I'm leaving it alone, letting it dry. Here's where I take care of the hinge, and I'm good with it. I like the texture of it, and I think it'll be just fine for a junk journal. So there's one idea of how you can cover a book page. Now this video is a 2-part video, in sense that the first half here I'm showing you how I decorate all of these 13 pieces, and in the second part I'm actually going to be putting them in the junk journals that I'm working on currently, which are Valentines. So definitely hang out for that second part, and then at the end, of course, I'm going to show you kind of how all of this comes together. All right. Tip number 2, I guess, this video is too long for that, but I'm adding gesso. If you add gesso over your pages, then people can journal on it. You can add ink to it. It just gives you a lot of flexibility. So that's what I was doing. I set that to the side and let it dry. I got my Mod Podge back out, and this time I'm using this leftover tissue that came in Happy Mail. I can't wait for y'all to see that Happy Mail. I just went to the post office the other day, and so I have all of my December Happy Mail, and I can't wait to share it with you. That'll be another video. But this tissue came in one of the packages, and I loved it so much that I have used it to make myself a new background, which you'll see at the end of this video, and I made a video of it, and I'm using it here in this junk journal. So if you don't have fancy napkins, don't sweat it. Use tissue paper. I'm going to use it another time in this video. I just like how it aged the paper even more with that color. And now I am adding a pocket with just a scrap of cardstock that I had in my stash. I definitely use a lot of my scraps for all of these makes, and it uses them right up. It's wonderful. I had a plastic sheet protector full of scraps, and it's gone. Yay! So here is a book I had gotten recently. They are stickers. I bought this on Amazon. I'll leave it linked down below. The only thing I'm going to say, I think it has a nice variety of stickers. I think it's a good price. And you just want to add more glue. Like, you will want to add more glue. So anyways, I pick a couple of stickers because I thought, well, maybe people have stickers that they want to use up. The junk journal is a great place to use up your stickers. So at first I was kind of testing this to see how it would stick. I picked that and this beautiful bird's nest. I always love a bird's nest. And putting that in there. And then I have a little scrap jar of laces and trims over on my desk where 4.3 million things live. And so I just grab a piece of that and this Fabrifix, and I'm going to put this glue on here and glue it at the top of this page. Fabrifix is wonderful. I don't like it on my hands. And actually my PVA glue works just as nice. I did a big project. Oh, my background I've already told you about. And the Fabrifix dries all shiny and my PVA doesn't. So I don't know. They're just different. And I think I feel more comfortable with my PVA. It's a personal choice. Okay, this is a different day, and I come back and I really wanted to distress the edges of the stickers because the white was just kind of bugging me on that tan background. I had someone ask me recently what they could use if they don't have distress ink. You can use any ink. Any ink that you have, you can blend just like I'm doing. So these are makeup brushes that I get on Amazon, super cheap, love them. I've had them for years and years and years, and they're amazing. Anyways, so yeah, you don't have to have distress ink to do this technique. Any ink will do it. All right, so now my gesso has dried, and we're going to go back to this Rita Donnelly tuck, which, you guys, I used up all the ones I had made in this in these journals after the session was over, and I immediately went the next evening and made a whole bunch more because I really love these in a journal. So for this one, I just grabbed a stamp. This is from Blue Fern Studios. I really love their stamps a whole lot, and I buy them from Dreams, etc. I will also leave Dreams, etc. linked down below for you. But she carries a lot of Blue Fern. She designs for Blue Fern, and she's amazing, Jen Bishop, and I love her shop. And yeah, so anyways, now here I was rushing it. I wasn't being patient. I was using a pigment ink, which takes longer to dry, and I kind of blended a little bit of the black ink, which I did not want to do. That was not an effect I was going for. Let me show you. I'll show you. That's just from being impatient. Don't do that. All right, here are some that I made out of cardstock. They don't flip up. These were just remnants, again, of scraps, and I cut them in triangles. Super simple, ink blending around the edges, and then another stamp. So, you don't have to have gesso. If you don't have gesso, you can also use white acrylic paint. So that's always another option. So this is a different Blue Ferns Studio image, and on Labor Day, Jen had at Dreams Etc. had a big sale, and I took advantage, and I bought stamps like this because I just knew, first of all, I didn't have very many in my stash, even though I have way too many stamps, and I knew I would want them for junk journals. And I hope you're picking up on how random all of this feels. Like, we've had bird cages and birds' nests. Those are kind of connected. We've got butterflies, just flowers, just kind of all kinds of randomness. But stick around till the end because I want you to see how it all comes together. And I think that's the essence and the beauty of a junk journal. That's why I love using my scraps, because one, it takes care of my paper problem, which is too many scraps, and it makes the journals more eclectic. You know, you can have printables and scraps and things that are really intentional, and they come together beautifully, and it just makes things more interesting. So this is my faux gusseted envelope that I made, and these are some ephemera pieces that I got from Hobby Lobby. With my friend Letty, we have a video collaboration coming up using these, and I had already recorded that video, so I had them on my desk, and I decided to use some more. Here I am using my finger, my index finger, as my marker, not to glue past my finger. So, you know, there's little techniques that you can pick up along the way that help you when you're trying to just glue certain parts of ephemera or a page. So here I'm putting a Valentine inside because I just know this is going to go in my Valentine journal. And then I decided just to ink blend on the back. But obviously you could also add ephemera or more patterned paper. You could stamp on it. I'm showing you here. But I decided that that's just really not necessary, and I leave it just ink blended. I liked it better. Here's another Blue Fern stamp set, and I loved so many different stamp sets. It was really hard to narrow them down to the ones that I was going to get. And these are like borders, but very unique borders. And so I just thought that that decorated that envelope nicely. It's kind of plain on the bottom, which is totally fine. But I wanted there to be a little interest when you open the flap. Again, distressing the edges. And then I decided to add a little bit more to this, to the front top flap of this envelope. As I was saying before in my first video, I like to lightly decorate, and then once I decide what journal I'm going to put something in, I can always add more decoration. So I think this is the perfect example of that. Again, I go back to that jar of fabric and lace snippets, and I found a piece as well as a piece of ephemera. So here I'm going to show you, I'm going to use my PVA glue to glue this down, and it will glue beautifully. My PVA Lineco glue is a book binding glue, and it works great on fabric and paper and all the things. I love the way that little envelope came together. I think it's just so sweet and perfect and done. I ink blended around those hearts that I had cut out in the first video and put a piece of ephemera on that one. Now it's time for this little trifold. I really didn't like that snowflake paper. So I brought back the bird cage and the tissue, and I'm going to stamp on the tissue. Now here's a valuable lesson, you guys. So I'm stamping on my tissue on top of my project. I'm going to lift it up, and we're going to get a surprise. Dun, dun, dun. It is, it transferred. It went to my paper there. See? Has a bird cage on it. So always be careful. Lesson learned. Maybe you won't learn it the hard way if you are still watching this video. So I am adding, again, a bunch of Mod Podge. I opened this jar of Mod Podge 3 days ago, and it is halfway gone. Or it's half full, whichever way. Usually a bottle will last me about a year, maybe a little less than a year. It looks like I'm going to have to get a bottle a lot sooner than that. Letty, I think we need another trip to Hobby Lobby. So here I'm just going to trim off the edges. Again, I'm not even going to bother putting another layer of Mod Podge across the top of this. I usually just do that when I really want to seal something in, but I don't feel like these little pieces of ephemera and pages in the junk journal really need that. So I'm grabbing this border again, and you know, it's kind of nice to use some of the same stamps over and over when you're working on projects because it ties everything together. So at the time where it's really interesting to have lots of variety in a junk journal, it's also really nice to have some continuity. So I think using some of the same imagery and the same borders and the same things on different pieces and throughout the journal really help tie things together. It makes it all seem very intentional. I decided to add a piece of sari silk to this so it'll make a little tie. Now the sari silk makes it thick, so this is something that's going to really fatten up wherever I put it on the journal, which is totally fine. But yeah, it just word to the wise. So in that bird cage is a butterfly. So I grab a butterfly, and I think this one is beautiful. It really kind of fits with all the coloring, and it's the right size to cover up most of that tape. I did have to remove a little bit, but not too much. Just peeled it back. You can also get an adhesive eraser that would help with this as well, but I had just applied it and it came up really easily. So once I get all of that off, which this will be it, I'll show you how this wraps up, and then we'll fill it up as well. So one of the things, and I mentioned this in the first video, if you have lots of pockets and tucks and places in your journal, it really is best to fill them up. Put things in them. Your journal may go to someone who doesn't know, oh, that's a tuck, oh, that's a flip, oh, I'm supposed to put something there. Go ahead and put things there. They can always take them out if they want, but it's nice to have them there. So I decided to glue down a flower on this side, and then I added more of the Tsunami Rose Valentines printables, and then I will be able to just wrap this little baby up, and I'm going to tuck the fabric behind it. So sweet. Okay, you guys, this was another page that we had in the first video, and now I want to finish decorating it. I am going to use ephemera down here. If you don't have ephemera, you could stamp images on fabric, stamp images on paper, make your own ephemera, use die cuts, use images from a junk journal kit, use ephemera, meaning like actual like things you might find at an estate sale or antique store. You know, I know there's all different kinds of opinions, and that's a beautiful thing in the junk journal world about printables and authentic stuff. But I actually, because I think of my profession outside of junk journaling and outside of YouTube and card making and paper crafting, I just could never just use all those old documents and put them in a junk journal and distress them and do all of that. I would rather have a printable because it's not so precious. But that's because I work in a collectibles world, and so you know, I actually favor printables for that reason. Okay, I just made myself like a little notebook to be tucked in here. I'm only using one sheet of tea-dyed paper, and then I have yet another Blue Fern. So again, I just really loved these unique borders. They can go vertically, horizontally. I just think they're so interesting and so fun. I believe this is gathered twigs, and I'm just stamping this on here. I'm going to wrap this piece around the top of that little notebook that I just stapled together, and it won't wrap 100% around the back, but I think that is what makes it even more fun. So I'm going to put glue all over this and wrap it around. So one sheet of that tea-dyed paper gave us a 3-page little booklet and the top, and then I have another piece that we're going to use next. Okay, so I wasn't bothered when I had that hole when I was doing this originally because I knew I would cover it. So I'm just grabbing one of my scrapbook corners here, and I'm going to glue that down. And then I'm going to put a little piece of ephemera. A lot of the ephemera that I'm using is all from Tsunami Rose. It's part of one of her Valentine collections that's brand new, and it's so beautiful. So I will leave that link down below as well. This is how I use that leftover from the tea dye paper. Is I just took it and folded it into a little fold out, and I'll show you that again. And then I added more ephemera. Just keep adding. If you are journaling and it is feeling a little plain or disjointed, just keep adding things. I found these in my scraps. I don't know what they were from, but they're little folded pieces of paper. So I decided to just stamp on the bottom one of them, and I'm going to turn it into like a journaling spot, basically. So it's a vanilla color or cream colored paper, and I'm wanting to tuck it in here. It was a little tall, so I know how to fix that. I'll just cut off the top. There we go. And it'll fit right in there. Yay. But I felt like it needed a tab, so I grabbed another scrap, and I'm just going to cut some off. I'm going to fold it in half. I was trying to decide which side do I want to use. I did decide to use the grid. And I'm going to use my corner punch and just round two of the corners, the side that's folded, and then glue it on. And I've just created a little tab without a special die or really a special punch. I mean, I think a lot of us have those corner rounders, and if you don't, I suggest getting one. They are awesome. I really like that one that I'm using there, the We Are Memory Keepers, because it has 3 different sizes, but I also love my crocodile. All right, you guys, this little page is all done. This is another hinged page, but it's just a double page. Moving on to the belly band, I decided I wouldn't decorate the belly band more, but I would make a little card to go around the belly band. So I went to my scraps. Have you found the theme here? And I found these like faux, they're printable, like newspaper clippings, but they have flowers. They're beautiful. I love them. And again, I'm stamping familiar images here. I'm using this other border or banner, and I'm stamping it down at the bottom. And from the same stamp set, I brought in this wider piece, which I'm going to stamp off the edge on both sides. And I just think this takes this little fold out to the next level. It makes it seem extra special. Adding just these little bits of detail really take your project to the next level. I feel that way in card making too. It's when you add the last final little bitty touches that things really come together and it makes everything more special. I'm just stamping off on a scrap piece of paper here because I didn't feel like cleaning my mat for the 100th time. So that's all I'm doing. And using my sleeve. See, isn't that sweet? I just really love that. Now let's decorate the front of it. When I was digging through my scraps, I also found this girl. Isn't she amazing? I love Art Nouveau. So I wanted to ground her, and I brought this scrap back. This is a Maggie Holmes paper, and it's got to be one of my favorite papers of all time. I love grid, and I love florals, and it has both. One side is grid, one side is a beautiful blue floral. And I went back to my jar of lacy scraps and got this yellow piece. I wasn't sure. I was like, oh gosh, that's a really bright yellow. Is that going to work for this? And I thought it did. So I put that grid to where it looked like she could almost be sitting on it. I really feel like this kind of grounds that piece of ephemera and makes it all feel connected. I didn't want to just glue it to the front and be done. I wanted something more. And I feel like it looks like then she's sitting there. But that's all I did. I added those two pieces, added the ephemera, and I felt like this little booklet was just precious. I could always add more pages, which I thought about using string and just tying in some pages to it and making like a mini junk journal for the junk journal. All right, this is part 2 of part 2. This is where I start adding all of these things into my journal. I do not know what is going on with my camera, but for some reason, I look at it and everything seems in frame, and then I went back to edit and I was like, why is all of that cut off? And then I refilmed and the same thing happened. So I don't know. I'll have to get that figured out. So forgive me. That's just a weirdness. But I didn't want to just delete this all from the video and lose all this footage because I want you to see me using the pieces that we all just made together in a journal. I want you to see the practical application of these detailed pieces. So I'm just flipping through, first finding my white pages. That's what these like double tuck spots are for. Now here I did fold this one over just to reinforce it and make that a little stronger. That's the side where everything is going to be, inserted. And so I wanted it to be a little stronger. I would really suggest that if you're using book pages for that part. If it's cardstock, you don't need to. So we've got a double pocket put in. Here's another white page. So I grabbed my hinged page for this. I thought it went beautiful with that purple paper. And then I did trim off this book page part. It was just too much, not needed. And I am going to use some double-sided tape to adhere this. This is a really heavy piece. It's got a lot of weight to it. So I wanted to really enforce it and make sure that it was adhered very well. So I grabbed a couple of pieces of double-sided tape. I use a cherry on top tape. I love it, love it, love it. And then I'm putting glue. Not because I'm a maniac and I think it needs it, but because it helps with repositioning. If I were to get it wrong, the glue just gives you a little more wiggle room. All right, so that is applied now. I'm just flipping through, getting a feeling for these journals. And here is another one, and I decided to add a Rita Donnelly flip down here. Again, I'm sorry, it is difficult to see, but at least you can see where I'm gluing it, how I'm putting it down. And if you're just getting started with junk journaling, do yourself a favor and get used to holding the part you don't want to glue when you're getting ready to add things into your journals. Just always hold the part where you don't want any glue to go, and it will help guide you. And it's just a good practice. I don't even think about it anymore, but it always keeps me from gluing the wrong sides. This one, I wish I would have folded that book page over, and I thought about it, but I was already putting glue on it, so I didn't do it for that piece. But I could go back and reinforce it with a strip of paper. It's a long video, but I am giving a lot of tips, so I hope you're enjoying it. All right, so, this is not a white page. It's of that beautiful purple, but I still decided that I wanted to cover some of them just to make the flip more interesting. I have this back of this Valentine. I got it at the Dollar Tree the other day, and I want to just cover that up, so I use this pocket. I will tell you that I'm going to flip through all of these where you can see things better, so don't worry. But I wanted, again, you to see the process. I didn't want you to lose the process. So when I first measured this up, I thought it was a perfect fit, but it kind of hung over the edge a little bit. I'm not going to worry about it. It'll be fine. It's a junk journal. No need for perfectionism. All right. So just filling things out, deciding where things can go. When you're flipping through your junk journal, you can just kind of get a sense for yeah, that feels a little blank. I think I can make that more interesting. And so these last 2 videos have been all about, making the little details that make your journal more interesting, give you more journaling space and more beauty. This page, I love this page. I am going to make so many of these, you guys. I'm just going to have a session. Me, my Mod Podge, and my napkins, and my hinged pages. I really, really love them. So I'm just using my bone folder to make sure I really burnish that in. I want that page to be very well attached. And I like that it's like double hinged and it goes in different ways, different directions. So I'm going through again. And this is what I do, you guys. I keep going through. So I don't just flip through once and add some things and I'm like, done. I usually flip through a few times. Just continuing to flip, see where I can add things or rearrange things like that. That's how my journals kind of come together. There's a lot of flipping going on. So I think I'm trying to think of what I don't remember what I add to this page, but a library pocket. And it really went well colorized with, I thought it tied together that kind of coral color very well. And so here's a couple of things I had in that library pocket. And there was something, I got some ink on it. So I grabbed another piece of ephemera to kind of just cover up that mistake. They happen. We get inky fingers. And I clipped those 2 together. So right now I'm planning on these being 2 signature journals. We'll see by the time I'm done with them how many signatures. I might do single signatures. I don't know. I just don't think that, but that's just me. I think that I would be happy with a single signature Valentine's journal. I don't think I'd need 2 or 3 signatures. And on this one, I know I'm going to add a pocket. I would have totally added another napkin page if I had one. That was a really fun detail in the other signature with that napkin page. So let me know what you guys think of this down below. I will have a final flip through once I get my covers made and put my journals together. So you can see how these journals came out in the end. I still have some more ephemera to make because there's a lot of pockets. So I need to make a lot of journaling cards and things like that. I'm just going to do a couple of more things here with you guys. I'm going to put this belly band in place. When you're putting a belly band in place, you just do, if you're doing a vertical one, you just do the top and the bottom like I'm doing here. Or you do the right and left side if you're doing one horizontally. All right, just making sure my little booklet wasn't caught in any way. Now, all of this white space, this page just feels really incomplete to me, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix that. I'm going to distress the edges first. So this is worn lipstick, and I am just going to ink blend the creases and all the edges, trying not to get anything on my pockets or ephemera that are in there. I could have easily taken my ephemera out, but I felt confident enough that it would be okay. So I left it in. I'm just getting all the edges. Clean up my glass mat so that ink doesn't transfer back onto my journal. And then I just grabbed a few random stamps that I have. I really love this bird's nest. Again, it kind of ties into the other images that we've used. So these journals are definitely going to have some like bird theme. And then I have this really cool stamp, but I decided not to use it actually, but it's really great for journaling. Instead, I bring in these flowers, or I guess it's a flower, and I stamp it all around my page, kind of creating a border. So I will tell you that decorating your pages before you sew it all together is the way to go. Like the way I am folding this page in, so I'm only catching that one page. Things like that, you can't, it's difficult. It's difficult to do that once you have your pages sewn together. It's also difficult to stamp once you have your junk journals sewn together because not everything is real even usually. So it just makes it difficult. It's always best to decorate and then get your journals sewn together. Decorating takes the longest time. When it comes to making a junk journal, all this ephemera that I've been showing y'all, all these things that we're doing with book pages, this is the most lengthy process. So now I'm just flipping through, letting you see kind of how some of these things came together in the journals. I'm going to show you this journal, which has, the decorated pages. It has all these different things that we've added and done to the pages to bring interest. Sometimes you can just paper clip things in. And then I want to show you this journal that is kind of naked. It doesn't have any of those points of interest. Can you see the difference? I just thought I would show that to you guys because it really does make a difference. Like, yeah, it's the most lengthy, labor-intensive part of junk journaling, making all that stuff and doing all of that decoration. But it's also like the secret sauce. Just putting pages in, it just doesn't deliver the same effect if you don't go the step further and add all of the details. So, I know people sell naked junk journals. I'm one of them. I'm not against it. Because sometimes people just don't want to do the construction, but they want to do all the decorating. It makes perfect sense. But I wanted you to see the difference. I wanted you to see why all of this is even important or what kind of impact it makes in the journal making. So there's our Rita Donnelly tuck and flip. Here's a fun pocket. I hope you guys are feeling inspired and that you are enjoying all of this content. It was labor intensive, but so much fun to share with you guys. And I just hope it helps in some way. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.